Are you thinking about moving to Myrtle Beach? Today, we're going to talk about the 5 hottest spots to check out when you're moving to this area. What's happening, guys? I'm Jeremy Blanton with Remax Southern Shores, and I share information about moving to Myrtle Beach. I'm someone who moved here back in 1998 and have lived here since. I have actually been a full-time realtor since 2001 and helped hundreds of people move to the area over the years. And so I'm sharing from my experience of living in the area, things that I love, things that I can't stand, things that drive me crazy. And so today, I thought I'd take the time to share with you the 5 areas that I feel most people are looking at when they're thinking about moving to the Myrtle Beach area. So we're going to kind of do this Johnny Carson style and count them down. So we're going to start at number 5. And number 5 on our list today is Conway, South Carolina. Conway is a great area just west of the Myrtle Beach section of Myrtle Beach. That is going to be a quaint little town. It has a historic downtown section, has the river that runs through there, and there's a lot of things to do all around that area. One of the big pros about living in Conway and having a Conway address is that your price for your home is going to become more affordable. You're going to be able to get a much more home, much more land for a much better price. You take that same home, bring it over inside the city limits of Myrtle Beach, and you're probably looking at adding $60,000 to $100,000 onto the price. Now, one of the big downsides about being in Conway is that in order to get over to the beach where all the tourist things are, where all the stuff is happening, you're going to have to spend the time driving. In order to get to the beach, most of you are going to end up having to use Highway 501 most of the time. So if you have a job inside Myrtle Beach, it could be a little bit of a pain to have to drive 501 each and every day just to get into work. But as Conway has continued to expand out a little bit farther into some of the outer sides of it, you can get over to the beach pretty quick and easy from some of those areas. For example, one of the neighborhoods I've talked about in the past is called Auberon Woods. It's a great little community that's a mile away from the interchange of Highway 22 that you can get on and be over to North Myrtle Beach in about a 10 to 15 minute drive. You're going to drop right in there close to Barefoot Landing and all the stuff that is available in that area. You can go over to Arcadian section of Myrtle Beach and be on the beaches sitting within probably a 20-minute drive from doorstep over to that neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood, going to have over 1,000 homes in there, 2 community pools, fitness centers, all kinds of great stuff. I've had several clients that have reached out and bought in that neighborhood in just the past few weeks because of the convenience to get around. Some of the other things, though, about Conway that you might want to take into consideration. Because you're a little bit farther inland, in the summertime, it's going to be much hotter than when you're over closer to the beach. For example, if you live in Carolina Forest, there's a little bit of still a breeze from the ocean that's taking place most of the time, even in the middle of summer. Now, I was out cleaning my garage this past weekend in the middle of summer, and trust me when I say it's hot no matter whether you have the breeze or not. But Conway has a lot of other great things. The historic downtown section has some really, really cool stores, some really cool shops and restaurants that just give it that quaint little small hometown feel that a lot of people really enjoy. You can walk down the streets and see the historic live oaks that are sitting around on the street and all the other cool things that Conway has to offer. There's the Riverwalk. Now, some of the other things that you want to pay attention to, though, when we're talking about Conway, certain sections of Conway are prone to flooding. So we need to take that in consideration when we're thinking about a neighborhood and where we're going to purchase. Back when we had Hurricane Florence that came through and we had the tragic flooding that took place through a lot of the county, people would think that took place right along the coast. That is not the case. It actually took place inland more in Conway than it did right along the coast. So those are some of the great things about Conway. There's a lot of great neighborhoods in there. If you want to learn more about them, just reach out to me. My email's down below, or you can go over to jeremyblanton.com and book a call and we can discuss your move to the area. All right, so number 4 on our list today that I want to talk about is the Surfside Beach area. This is known as the family beach, and there is just so many cool things to do down in Surfside. Now, some of my clients absolutely love living down in this area and don't want to pick anywhere else to live. And for those of you that have visited the Grand Strand over the years and you frequent Surfside Beach when you're in town, you're probably going to want to pick a home down in this area because that's what you're comfortable with. And guys, there is so many cool things to do right there in the Surfside Beach area. There's tons of restaurants, there's tons of shops and miniature golf and other things for entertainment that take place right throughout the Surfside Beach area. There is going to be, though, in the Surfside area, a definite seasonal touristy feel that takes place. Some people who live in this area definitely notice that it's taking place. One of the subdivisions, and I was talking to clients the other day about, is called Deerfield and Southwood. They're right along Connect. You can get to them from Highway 544. And I had some people who were very interested in purchasing in one of these subdivisions until we started to discuss the fact that there's going to be heavy traffic taking place in this area. I used to go to a church that sat right along 544, and we had a student ministry that met on Saturday evenings right around the 6 o'clock time frame. Well, during the summer, when height of traffic's taking place, Saturday afternoons is when all of the new RVs, motorhomes, and big trucks with trailers are coming into the beach, and they're going down to Surfside most of the time. Why? Because that's where you have Ocean Lakes Campground. That's where the Myrtle Beach State Park is. That's where Pirate Land is. So the traffic on Highway 544 would start to back up. Now, my church that I was going to at the time sat probably 4.5 miles away from the intersection of 544 and 17. Well, on a Saturday evening when we would start to meet, we would sometimes be delayed starting because we couldn't get actually to the church with the buses of students that we were bringing back. And we'd have to wait for them to get through the traffic because the traffic backs up that far. You got to think, on a normal day, if I'm in a car's probably about 20 foot long. Well, if I'm in an RV or pulling a fifth wheel behind me, I've gone from being 20 feet long to 60 to 70 feet long in some of these instances. So you do that over 500 people, it makes the length of time very long. And so traffic on a weekend can be just terrible to get through the Surfside area. And so if you're going to buy a home down in that section of the beach, it's definitely something you want to take into consideration. But if you want to have the ability to get down to all of the awesome stuff that Surfside Beach has, be close to the Garden City Pier, have all of the amazing things that are available to do in that area, the miniature golf, the shopping, the restaurants, all of that stuff, then living in Surfside Beach is something you definitely want to take in consideration. Now, as a whole, Surfside is usually a little bit more affordable than, say, inside Myrtle Beach city limits, which is a big bonus to a lot of people. But you are going to deal with all the seasonal traffic and all of the tourists. In fact, I was once told that the Surfside Walmart is the second busiest Walmart in the United States. The friend of mine that worked there said that they would do like $30,000 to $50,000 a day in just selling sandals and flip-flops during the summertime. That's insane amount of people buying shoes at a Walmart. And so that should help give you an idea of just how many people can be down in that area on a single day in the middle of the summertime. So you definitely want to take all of that into consideration if you're thinking about moving to that area. But if you say, hey, Surfside's where I want to be, there's some great communities you want to check out. You want to go to places like Prestwick. You want to go to Deerfield. You want to go to Southwood and some of the other awesome little subdivisions that sit through the area. Or maybe you say, hey, I want to buy a beach home and be down in the area. Well, with the unfortunate rules that are in place inside Myrtle Beach city limits, you can't really buy that beach home and rent it out by the week. But when you go down into the Surfside area and Garden City, you can definitely find them there. I had a client who bought one several years back. They absolutely love it. They rent out the house by the week, and it's bringing in $75,000 to $100,000 of gross rental income each and every year on that home. So there's a lot of great opportunity if you're thinking about buying that rental property down in that area. Just know the price tag is a little bit higher on something like that, but there's definitely a good possibility there in the future with it. All right, so the third place that I want to talk about, and we're going to now jump from down in Surfside all the way up to the northern end of the beach, and we're going to talk about the Little River and Longs section of Myrtle Beach. This is just on the northern side of North Myrtle Beach. So I've kind of taken out of this video, by the way, just so you know, North Myrtle Beach and Myrtle Beach city limits themselves, they kind of have their own thing. I could do a whole video on just those two sections, but this is going to be the section just north of North Myrtle Beach. So that Longs Little River area is a great area where you're going to find much more rural options for you thinking about purchasing and moving to the area. The nice thing is that because it's north and west of the coast, the pricing is going to start to become a little bit more affordable. For example, I have clients that bought some really, really nice new construction homes in the northern end of the beach up there in Longs that down in Carolina Forest or inside Myrtle Beach city limits would easily be a $350,000 to $450,000 house. But because they had a Long's address, they were able to get that same beautiful home for under $300,000. So if you're looking for something where you can get a little bit more house and save a little bit of money, you might want to check that out. The nice thing about this is that you're only about a 10-minute drive over into North Myrtle Beach and Cherry Grove. So if you want to be able to get to the coast, get down to the beach, get your toes in the sand real quick and easy, you have that available to you. Also, because you're somewhat close by, you can get over to North Myrtle Beach, where there is so many things to do. There is shopping and restaurants and just so many other things that are taking place up in that area. If you're wanting to go to entertainment, definitely go check out my friend Greg over at the Greg Rules Legacy Theater in North Myrtle Beach. It's an awesome show that they do, live performances almost every single night with live music. Really, really cool show. You can go check that out, and that's 15 minutes from Long's. If you want to go have a nice dinner, there's tons of restaurants to pick from in the North Myrtle Beach area, or you can do all of your shopping. You've got all of the big name box stores going to be up in that area. So you've got your Walmart, you've got your Lowe's, your Home Depot, you've got Aldi, grocery stores, Food Lion, Publix. All that stuff is right there in North Myrtle Beach, which is just a few minutes away from the Long's Little River section of the beach. Now, one of the negative sides to being up on this end of the beach is that your roads to get around start to get limited, kind of like when you're out into Conway. In Conway, you got to use 501 to get around. Well, when you get up into Long's and Little River, you basically are stuck using Highway 9 and 17 to get anywhere, because all of the other roads kind of merge into those two as you get up to the northern end of the beach. So what that means is that if there is a day with high traffic volume for tourism, say the 4th of July weekend, Labor Day, or just a weekend in the middle of summer, traffic can get a little backed up. It can take a lot longer to get around and through those areas. And unfortunately, if there becomes an accident, you're going to be stuck sitting there and waiting to get through it, because there's no other option to get around. I had a client who was thinking about buying up in Little River in a great community that was just recently built called Heather Glen. And they were so ready to go buy this home up there until we started to talk about traffic and getting around, and that you'd have to use Highway 17 for any and all days just to get out of their neighborhood to go do anything. And I said, well, what happens if half mile down the road from your subdivision as you're leaving to go south, there is a major wreck? How do you get around? And they just looked at me. And then they realized, you know what? There isn't an alternative route. We're stuck. We're going to have to sit to go through that. And it just happened that while they were getting ready to go write the offer the next day, they decided to take a drive up to the area. And as they were driving back up there, there was a wreck that took place, and they got stuck sitting in it for over an hour. And they said to me, they called me that night and said, Jeremy, we don't want to go there anymore. Let's find a different option. Let's go somewhere else. And so we ended up finding them a different home in a different section of the beach. So just keep that in mind as you're considering the northern end of the beach. But, like I said with Surfside, the same is true up on the northern end. People who love living up on the northern end of the beach are only going to find homes on the northern end of the beach, just like people down on the southern end are going to find those down in Surfside. So as you're making those decisions, take that all into consideration for sure. All right, number 2 on our list today that we're going to talk about is Murrells Inlet down on the southern end. So we've gone from the west to the south, all the way to the north, all the way down to the south now, and we're going to talk about Murrells Inlet. Murrells Inlet is a great little town area that people absolutely love. It is known as a fishing town, as a seafood town, has a lot of amazing restaurants to go and eat. When people who are visiting the area ask me, Jeremy, where should I go to eat today? And I want good seafood, I'm almost always sending them down to Murrells Inlet. Why? Because there are just so many awesome restaurants down there to pick for fresh seafood. But at the same time, that can also be a little bit of a negative. When you have the marsh that is there, sometimes the odor, it's a little smelly coming off of that marsh. And if your home is nearby, you're more than likely going to be smelling it in your home. The other thing is that sometimes if you get a little bit farther in Murrells Inlet South, you might even start to smell some of the paper mill coming from Georgetown County up if the wind's blowing the right way. So take that into consideration when you're picking down in this area. But there are some amazing communities down in the southern end of the beach and down throughout Murrells Inlet. A few that come to mind right away where I've had a lot of people love living over the years is number one, the International Club. There are so many little sections of it that run all through Murrells Inlet that people absolutely love. Another one is Blackmore Community. Blackmore has some beautiful, gorgeous homes in there. A lot of them are all brick, custom built houses on the golf course. And then right next to it as well is Creek Harbor, which is one of my absolute favorite spots. It is a little gated community down a road out in the middle of nowhere that gives a nice amount of privacy, a lot of peace and tranquility as you're in your home, but you can get from there over into Murrells Inlet in probably about a 15-minute drive. So if you're thinking about moving to Murrells Inlet, I would definitely check those areas out. Like I said a little while ago, guys, if you're thinking about moving here and you want to learn more about the areas, learn about some of the subdivisions, what they have, what the fees are, all that stuff, down below is going to be ways to contact me. You can either shoot me an email to info@jeremyblanton.com, or you can book a call on my website at jeremyblanton.com. It's super simple. All you have to do is go to the website, pick a date, pick a time, and schedule it. It automatically syncs in with my calendar, and we'll have a discussion to talk about your move to the area and find the right home in the right subdivision to meet your needs. All right. So now we're down to the final one, and the top one on my list. It's obviously my favorite. I've talked about it many times on the channel, but that is the Carolina Forest area. I think this is one of the best sections of the beach to live because of its accessibility to each and everything you need. Now, one of the big downsides to Carolina Forest these days is that the pricing is starting to get a little bit higher. If you're looking to move to the Carolina Forest area and you're wanting something with a newer home, something that's maybe 3 years or less in age, just be prepared. You're probably going to have to spend nowadays right around $400,000 to up to $650,000, $700,000 to get that. One of the great communities in the area, and I just had a conversation with someone today, is the Waterbridge community. It's a gorgeous, beautiful, gated community that's being built. And in there are two sections that are being done by some of the larger builders in our area. One section's D.R. Horton, and those homes are going to be probably $500,000 to $600,000 on most occasions. And then the other one is Chesapeake Homes, and those homes are probably going to start around $550,000 and go up to almost $900,000. But each of these areas are going to have some great communities. Now, across the street from it, you have a great one that's, if you're looking for those resales, places like Plantation Lakes, where you're going to find beautiful homes on the water, and most of those are going to be about $600,000 and up. Now, if you say, well, Jeremy, I want to move to Carolina Forest because I want the accessibility, and I don't mind having a house that's a little bit older, there definitely are options for you out there. Places like the Farm in Berkshire Forest have some awesome homes that are available for you. In fact, I just listed one. I'll show you a couple pictures here of it over in Berkshire Forest. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, and we listed it right under $400,000 on this home. It's in beautiful Berkshire Forest with the most amazing amenities. They have an awesome community pool, a lazy river, a splash pad. They also have tennis courts, pickleball courts, basketball, so many other things to do that are all right there in your development. But the big reason why everyone wants to move to Carolina Forest, and why the reasons that the prices have started to go up so much, is its convenience. If you need to get to a grocery store, there are multiple that are in the Carolina Forest area that you can access within a 5-minute drive of your house. If you say, hey, I don't feel like cooking tonight, instead I want to get stuff from a restaurant, there are dozens and dozens of restaurants available for you. As I mentioned before, I live in the Carolina Forest area, and I love it that if my wife were to call me right now and say, Jeremy, I need you to go pick up a box of pasta. We're making spaghetti tonight and I don't have any pasta. I can stop at one of the 3 grocery stores within 5 minutes of my house and be home with that in no time. So there's so many things that are right nearby. We now have medical that has moved into Carolina Forest area. We have a great McLeod emergency room on one end of the Carolina Forest area, and at the other end, Grand Strand has put an emergency center there as well. So there's so many different things to do here in Carolina Forest. The other thing that is great about this is that if I need to get on the road with my job, which happens a lot, and go show people in some of these other areas that we talked about, I can jump on Highway 31, be all the way up to Longs and Little River in about a 20 to 25 minute drive, or I can jump on and head south on 31 and be all the way down to the Inlet in about 25 to 30 minutes. Or if you say, hey, Jeremy, I want to see homes out in Conway, not a problem. I can jump on International Drive over to Highway 90 and be out there sitting in Conway in about a 15-minute drive that way. So having the accessibility of Highway 31 nearby makes life so much easier for me to get around the Grand Strand. Also, if my wife says, hey, you know what, let's go down to the beach, let's enjoy the sand and put our toes in the sand, we're going over to the Golden Mile section of the beach where we're going to enjoy beautiful sand, one of the widest, biggest, flattest areas that Myrtle Beach has for the beach, and it's all in between $1 million houses. So yes, we have a down that we have to pay to go to the beach in Carolina Forest, but it's $2 to $3 an hour, guys, and it tops out at like $15 for the whole day. So it's not a lot of money. And honestly, most of the time, we're only going to the beach for about an hour or two in a day because we have other things to do. We have children, we have church, we have work, we have all these other obligations and responsibilities. We can't just go put our beach chair in and sit there all day long. And for most of us, that's going to be the same thing true when you move to the area. You still are going to have to do the grocery shopping and cut the lawn and do the laundry and clean the house and all those fun things, which doesn't always afford you the ability to go down and sit on the beach from the minute the sun's up to the minute the sun goes down. But if you are, and you live in the Carolina Forest area, Golden Mile is where you're going to want to go. There's $1 million houses that you're going to be going down to the beach, maybe 15 to 20 other people at that beach entrance when you go in, and not be overcrowded with a bunch of tourists. So it is a great thing. The other thing is when we go to the restaurants, we're not going to the tourist spots in Myrtle Beach. We're eating at some of the local spots that are all over here in our area where you might be going right now. If you're going to dinner and it's 6 o'clock at night in Myrtle Beach, you're going over to the tourist spots and waiting an hour to 2 hours to get a table. I'm walking in the door of one of my local spots, walking in, they're saying, hey, Jeremy, how you doing? Taking me to a table and sitting me down within less than 5 minutes. So Carolina Forest just has so many things that are available to you. Now, if you're looking for some great neighborhoods in the area, as I mentioned, Waterbridge is a great one. Plantation Lakes is another amazing one. I would definitely also check out Berkshire Forest, Waterway Palms, and also the Bluffs on the Waterway are some of my favorite places to check out throughout the Carolina Forest area. So these are some of the reasons why I love living in Carolina Forest. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video where we talked about the 5 best spots to check out in Myrtle Beach if you're thinking of making a move to the area. I want to know, which section of Myrtle Beach are you wanting to move to? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor. Give it a thumbs up, get the bell on, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.